Hello and welcome to A Froggy Yarn, episode 5. My name is Rachel and I love talking about all things knitting. In today's episode, I'm going to go through some housekeeping, just some general updates, an update on my whips and test knit, one finished object to share with you, and then we're going to look at, usually I pick my pattern and then find the yarn to go with it. But right now I have a yarn and I'm trying to pick a pattern to go with it. And so I'm going to walk you through the process of how to use Ravelry as a tool to help you find the right pattern for a beautiful yarn. Then we're going to do a book review. I'm going to share a little bit about who I'm watching, and then we'll talk about the giveaway for the 100 subscriber milestone. So starting out, I realized last week I was wearing my Prospect tee and I completely forgot to tell you about it, so apologies. I'm trying to get better about what I'm wearing without touching the microphone. So today I'm wearing my Seashore Breeze tee. This was a test knit that I completed in April and May. Well, I started it in April, completed it in May of this year. The designer is Jennifer Shields Toland, and this particular top I used the Knitting DK on a Cone from Purl Soho, because you know I love a good cone yarn. And just as a reminder, I am a Purl Soho affiliate, so if you want to try Purl Soho yarn, I would love it if you use the link in the show notes. That gets me a small commission and supports this channel. But anyway, this is Knitting DK on a Cone. Now you can see the yarn itself. And then when I started it out, one of the things that Jennifer has you do is some different swatching. So here's the yarn in a stockinette, and then in pattern, just to kind of get a feel for how the pattern on the sweater will look, and then block them and see how the yarn behaves. And this yarn actually gave me perfect gauge for this sweater. This was done using size 6 needles for the body, size 4 needles for the ribbing. I followed the pattern exactly as it was written, length, fit, everything. I made a size 1, and let me look at my notes here. I used 984 yards of the yarn, or 450 grams. So again, that is the Seashore Breeze, and it is now available in Ravelry. Okay, I came home yesterday and found that I had been given a little gift. So Karina, if you're watching, thank you for my knitting fuel mug. I had my morning coffee out of my knitting fuel mug. So I'm not drinking out of it right now, but thank you, thank you. Love it. Karina is also the person that gave me this book many, many, many years ago called Extra Yarn. That is part of my backdrop. So thank you, Karina. Okay, then 2 things from episode 4. I shared about my acquisitions from Flock Fiber Festival, and I did not catch until after I had already uploaded my video to YouTube. Throughout the entire video, I referred to these braids as fleece. And a fleece is actually an unprocessed portion of sheared fiber from an animal. And these aren't fleece, these are actually braids. So thank you. Nobody actually called me out on it, so you were very kind, but I was horrified when I was watching and realized what I had said. So if you watch episode 4, just realize that I called them fleece, not braids, throughout the entire video. So my apologies. The other thing that came from episode 4 is I had done the little video clip about cone and fiber yarn, and I didn't actually explain what dead stock yarn is. Every skein or cone of yarn at Cone and Fiber is dead stock yarn. And dead stock yarn is leftover, excess, or unused yarn, mostly from textile mills like big producers, or spinning plants, or fashion design houses that use lots of yarn. When the companies overproduce or finish up a clothing collection, surplus yarn is left sitting in their warehouses, and rescuing this yarn prevents it from going to landfills or being burned. And once I learned that about deadstock yarn, it made me appreciate it even more. So if you are able to choose deadstock yarn, the pros and cons, the pros are that we're keeping it out of the landfills or from being burned, and it's usually amazing luxury yarn. The con is if you don't get all that you need up front, you can't get it again. You usually can't find a matching cone. What you get is all there is. And so I tend to, when I get a cone, I get more than I think I'm going to need. That way I have plenty for my project and I can use the leftovers on a smaller accessory or something. But anyway, that's what deadstock yarn is. And I'd had a couple people reach out and say, what is this magic of cone and fiber? So I thought I should explain it. Okay, the other last little bit from episode 4 is I shared all the names that had come in for the frog. And so, we're not solving world problems or anything. We're naming a crocheted frog. But I did put a link in the show notes. It's a Google form and you can go in and vote. I put all the names that were submitted either through email or in the comments. Put them in there. You guys vote and next week we'll name our frog. So Froggy will be named. Okay, whips and finished objects. So I have one of each. I really stayed focused. I was pretty much a monogamous knitter this week. And again, my knitting time has been so impacted, so I'm just scrambling to try and get things done. But I made very good progress. I'm not going to show you Mom's tank. I did get the body almost finished, but it looks about the same as last time. So once I have the sleeve holes finished and the neckband finished, I'll bring it back and show it to you. But I have to show you Jennifer Shields Toland, once again, test knit, and this baby is going to be done next week. I'm almost positive. So here it is. Both sleeves are now finished. Ta-da! Makes me very happy. And I got the hem done. It's going to look better after blocking. It's a little wonky right now. So what I will do next is this afternoon or this evening, I am going to cast on the front plackets for the button band. And then the very last thing to do is to put on the collar, and then I will get it blocked. And I'm hoping that next week for episode 7, I'll have the finished cardigan and I'll be wearing it. So this is the Riplet Tee Blouse by Jennifer Shields Toland. I am knitting it on size 4 needles for the body and size US 2 needles for the ribbing and the bands and all of that. The yarn is Drops Saffron, which is a 100% cotton yarn, and it's lovely to work with. It doesn't split. It's not hard on my hands. So there's my update on my works in progress. And then I have an accidental finished object. I was actually cleaning out my closet and I found a project bag and opened it up, and there was a pair of socks, 1.5 socks. And so I did a lot of sitting in meetings. I knit while I was at Flock Fiber Festival, and this was the perfect little project to bring along. So I managed to get them done. I do not know what yarn this is because I'm pretty sure I started these in 2008 or 2009 when I was knitting a lot of socks. So this is easily a 15-year-old project that had been forgotten and was languishing. But here they are. So these are the socks. Now, to explain, I live in Oregon and I attended University of Oregon for my undergraduate degree. So I'm a big Ducks fan, and these are Oregon Ducks color. And I know that this yarn was actually, it had Oregon Ducks in the title somehow, but that's all I remember about it. I did do 64 stitches. I know that because I was finishing the foot and the toe this week. So there's the patterning. And this is just a plain vanilla sock with a slip stitch heel. And then all I had to do was finish the foot and graft the toe and socks. I don't have sock blockers, so they don't look fantastic, but they are very comfy, and I'll put a couple pictures in of them on my feet. I didn't make them very tall. I don't know what I was thinking. I mean, it was 15 years ago, but they fit great. They're comfortable. I have worn them around the house a little bit, so there's my finished object, my surprise finished object. And then I wanted to share, so a couple of episodes ago, I shared about Tides yarn on cones. And one of the things that I didn't realize, I know they're going out of stock. In fact, their stock is almost gone. But I've been lurking on their website. And when I ordered my last cones in turquoise, they sent me a couple of extra little skeins of their yarn, and it's so pretty. I'm just sad it's going out of stock, or out, you won't be able to get it. This is 70% wool, 30% silk. But one of the things I had not showed you when I got this was they had what they call the Tides minis, and I haven't even unwrapped them. But these little guys, they were not expensive. I can't remember, but I think it was less than $10, and I threw it in with my Tides. So I have cones and then this little bit of extra, and then look at that, these little minis. These are still available on their website. So if you want to try Tides, this is your chance, because it won't be available. Once it's gone, and they're down to maybe 6 colors as of this morning when I checked. But these, the cone or the skein, along with those little minis, I think could make a really fun striped project of some kind. So it's in my queue along with 176 other things that I want to make, but I wanted to let you know about that since it isn't going to be available. I would say it'll probably sell out at least within the month of August, if not within the next few days. So Tides, Holstgarn, I will try to remember to put that in the show notes so that if you're interested, you can pick that up. Okay, the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put in a screenshot or a screencast that I had done. Normally when I start a project, I find a pattern that I really like, and then I go through my stash and I find the yarn that goes with that pattern. But if you remember from a couple of episodes ago, I got some Cardiff Cashmere Prime, and it was just such beautiful yarn. I wanted to try it out, but I had no idea what to make with it. And a couple of viewers actually sent me some pattern links and made some suggestions, and so I have put those in my file to think about. But I also wanted to search a little bit and just see if I could do a yarn search and find the right project on Ravelry. So I did, and I'm going to show you that process. It was actually really interesting, and I learned a lot. There are several ways you can search. And I'll do a voiceover on the screencast so that you can see the process I used. But I'm kind of excited, and now I have a few specialty yarns in my stash that I think I'm going to go on Ravelry and do this process for, and then try to line them up and put them in my queue so that I can make the projects and everything will be ready to go. So here's that screencast. To get started, open your Ravelry homepage and make sure you are logged in, and then click on Yarns. And that will bring you to search yarns, and I'm entering my yarn, which is Cardiff Cashmere Prime. Then you see the yarn listed, hopefully, that you want, and click on that. And that takes me to this landing page, and I can see different information about the yarn up at the top. You can go through those menus. The pattern ideas and the projects are the two places where you're most likely to find what you're looking for. So under pattern ideas, you'll see lots of patterns that have used that particular yarn in the pattern itself and recommends it as an approved yarn. Under projects, there are lots of them, and these are projects where people have either used the recommended yarn or substituted the Cardiff Cashmere Prime in to their project instead of what was recommended. So I'm going to use filters. I'm going to actually show you a couple of different ways to use filters and get to what you want. In this case, I'm looking at tops, not necessarily sweaters. I don't want to do a big bulky sweater with this. I'd like to do something thinner. So I am looking at tops, but I want to narrow it down some more. So after clicking on Advanced Features, I use the menu on the left to go through and pick out the particular things I'm interested in. And I forgot to click on clothing. So after I scroll all the way to the bottom, you'll see me going back up to the top to actually click the box that will give me more tops to choose from. So as you can see, there are lots of things that you can select from to filter. So we'll click on clothing, tops, and then that should really narrow it down. There we go, clothing, tops, all tops. So now I'm just going to see things that are finished, that have photos, that used Cardiff Cashmere Prime. So let's look through and see what's available, and then pick a handful to do a little bit of a deeper dive on, and see if I can find a few things that might work well with the 8 balls of Prime that I have in my stash. All right, let's see. I've scanned everything. Let's take a look at that Olivia top. Okay, and this person didn't put a lot of information in. Their project's beautiful. So, let's take a look at the pattern itself. And there it is showing my stash yarns that are available. So, lots of information in the pattern, and it does look like this pattern recommended Cardiff Cashmere as one of the yarns that was test knit or used in their testing. So that's good. I know it'll work. And it looks like it was held either double or triple. And I would have plenty according to the yardage and the grams. So good information to have. Okay, let's look at another one. The Spring Veneer. Okay, and this one has a little bit of information, and the person that made this actually gave some good notes, so that's nice to see. She did some modification and listed that. Looks like she finished it in the last year. Smaller needle size, so it was either held single or double. And they did a size 3, so I will have plenty of yarn. Okay. Let's see what else. How about this one? Puff Tea. And let's see. This one was held, looks like maybe double. I'll have to scroll back up and see. Nice design. Again, I would have plenty of yarn, so that's not going to be a problem. Good to know. US 2. Okay, so this was probably held single. Okay, so lots of knitting, but it would make a really nice lightweight top. So that's a strong contender. Let's check one more. The Laura Sweater. This was a knit test, so there may not be much available. Let's check and see. Oh, there is. Okay. The Laura Sweater. Oof. I think this is held triple to make a DK weight. I'm not really sure I want to do that, but it is a really pretty project. So who knows? Maybe I could pull that off. The larger needle size is appealing. Plenty of yardage. Okay, so I have some good contenders. That is super helpful. You can also just click on the yarns at the top of your Ravelry page and go to it that way, and you'll see everything made by Cardiff. And then you scroll down, you can see projects, but you can also just see all the different yarns that they make. So there are multiple ways to get to what you want. In this case, here are all the Cardiff yarns that are listed on Ravelry. And then I scroll down, kind of take a look at the overview, and then pick my yarn, which again would be the Cardiff Prime, and get to the projects that way. So lots of ways to get there, but I just love this handy tool that helps me figure out what I want to do with that luxury yarn that's burning a hole in my stash. Okay, so I hope that was helpful. I guess I just hadn't really thought about reverse engineering the process. I usually go pattern, then yarn, not yarn, then pattern, but it's nice to know we can do either, and it will likely turn out pretty well. Still not sure which pattern I'm using, but now I have 4 or 5 that I know will work well with the Prime, and when I get my test knits done and I can start casting on new projects, I'll let you know which one I pick. Okay, the next thing I want to share with you, I don't buy a lot of knitting books or quilting books or any of my other craft. I just don't want a lot of clutter in my home, but I really do enjoy a good book with good instructions. And when I do buy books, I tend to either get them from a thrift store, or on the recommendation of a friend, I might get one that's brand new, but generally I will thrift my books or I'll get them used on Amazon. And I managed to pick up a copy at a thrift store of this Cocoknits, and this is not a brand new title. This book was published, I believe, in 2017. It is still available. I found 2 sources for it, and I have linked them in the show notes. But this book is different. It's not just a pattern book, and I wanted to share some things with you. So I'm glancing over at my notes to make sure I get the right things. The first thing about this book is it is much more than just patterns. And so the author, who is Julie Weisenberger, takes you through the process of custom tailoring and fitting your clothing. And this is something that I struggle with. I know how to do waist shaping, but that's really about it. I can do a bust dart with some instructions, but she really takes you through the process of making sure your sweaters fit beautifully. And she uses a saddle shoulder construction. So I'm going to show you. She uses different color yarns to walk you through what that construction looks like. And then also talks about tips on flattering your fit and your style. So I'm going to show you a little bit of that. She talks about the different body shapes and how to flatter them the most, and then takes you beyond that to actual, like here, for example, if you're top heavy, if you have a lot on your chest, but you're smaller in the hips, this takes you right through what to knit, what not to knit, and how to wear it, which I thought was nice. And she does this for all types of body styles. And then she has 9 different designs that not only does she give you the full pattern for the sweater, and I'm not going to show you the instructions, but I'll put up an example of the knit, the finished knit. But not only does she take you through these 9 different designs, but each design includes sections on how to fit it to your particular body type. So, for example, fit and style notes on this one. This is for the Tilda sweater. And you get complete notes on how to customize it to flatter your body type, which I just thought was great. And then she ends with a special techniques section. Let me get to that. I should have tabbed all this and I didn't. But the special techniques, like here's an example for picking up around a neckline. There are written instructions and photos about how to do that well. And there are a lot of special techniques, like maybe 20, and all of them are step-by-step with photo tutorials. And then there's a sweater worksheet. So I can't show you the whole thing because this is a paid-for book, but her worksheet is fantastic. You can actually put in your measurements, and then it walks you through the process of using her method to custom fit your sweater to your body. So I need to dig into this and figure out which one of her projects I want to try, but I'm excited about making a custom fit that fits my body perfectly. My body size has changed drastically in the last 3 or 4 years. I'm much smaller and just all my measurements and proportions are different. So I've struggled a little to figure out exactly how to make sweaters that really flatter my body style. So I'm excited to dig into this and give it a try, but I wanted to share it with you. And I have linked the 2 places that I found it available. And then, hey, check your thrift stores because you might get lucky like I did. So that is Cocoknits Sweater Workshop by Julie Weisenberger. Okay, next, we're getting close here. This is actually going fast today. When I don't have a lot of time now that I'm back to work to just watch podcasts, but I make the most of my time. And so if I am in the car, sometimes I'll listen to something. My commute's short, so that's good, but I don't have a lot of time in the car either. Or if I'm in a meeting, I might knit because I like to maximize that time. But to sit and watch a podcast is kind of a precious thing. So the 2 times I let myself do that is if I'm at home in the evening knitting, or if I'm at the gym. And so I'll put a podcast on if I'm, on a machine where I'm not using my arms, I can hold it. Or I found that my phone is magnetic and will stick to some of the machines or the free weights. So I get a little bit of podcast time in. And so I have found there's probably 40 different knitting podcast channels that I follow. But I've really been enjoying some of the smaller channels that don't have a lot of subscribers and aren't getting a lot of attention and love, but have just great personalities and tips. So I'm going to link them in the show notes, but I want to mention 5 today. So the first one is Melissa Knits for Fun. And I will link her so you can just click on it if you're interested in checking her out. She has the biggest yarn stash. Well, there are 2 that have huge yarn stashes. I'll get to the other one in a minute. She has a massive yarn stash with lots of cone yarn and also lots of skeined yarn. And she is a prolific knitter. I swear she finishes a sweater every week. I think right now she has 5 cabled sweaters on her needles. And she's just a lot of fun. She lives in the South. And so you might want to check her out. She also has an Instagram chat group that you can be part of. And I'll put that in the notes for you as well. And it's just a fun group. I will tell you, if you get into that Instagram chat group, there are a bunch of yarn enablers in there, and they're always tempting me with new patterns, new test knits, new yarns I need to buy. And so I'm trying to resist the impulse when they put bright, shiny new things in that chat, but it is dangerous. So if that's something you struggle with, you may not want to go there. The next one is actually called I Knit and I Know Things. And this is the host is Gina, and she is a nurse midwife who is also a pretty prolific knitter. And she does very thoughtful descriptions of her projects and lots of fun content. So you may want to check her out. She's also in the notes. And then if you enjoy great photography, the roaming knitter, I believe her name is Heather, she is in the UK. And she's getting ready to take a trip all throughout Europe in her camper van with her little dog, Ruby. And she is just fun. She's a newer knitter, but she's really getting her feet under her and producing a lot of great things. And she does a lot of vlogging, and you can see through her wonderful photography and videography kind of her life and her life as a knitter. So that's another fun one. And then the other person with the largest stash I think I've ever seen is Tanya, and her channel is The French Knot, and her Instagram name is A Naughty Knitter 2, and I believe that's her Ravelry name as well. She has a massive stash. She is a little hyperactive in her presentation, but a lot of fun, and she is one that I met at Flock Fiber Festival in person, so I feel like we're knitting friends now. And she has a Discord chat with lots of different content areas, so you can kind of go in and nose around. There's one for coupon codes, there's another one for finished objects, so it's just kind of fun if you enjoy that kind of chat and connection. There's one for spinnings. There's all kinds of resources in that chat. You can be connected through her Discord channel, and there are lots of people in there that you can chat with and trade ideas with, so that's another good one. And then the last one, and I forgot to look up her name, but Knits in Color is a US-based podcaster with a pretty small channel. I think she has around 700 subscribers, so bigger than mine, but still fairly small. And she's also a fairly prolific knitter. The last episode I watched, they were under I believe a hurricane, no, not a hurricane watch, a tornado watch. So that was fun. I'm glad I don't live in Tornado Alley. But all of those are linked in the show notes, and I just enjoy kind of sharing what I get ideas and inspiration from. And so every once in a while I'll throw a few new ones out there. I do follow some of the bigger designers and content creators as well, but I thought I'd start with some of the smaller ones. And then the last little bit of housekeeping for today, we this week crossed and exceeded that 100 subscriber milestone. And so as promised, I want to do a giveaway. Just a reminder, I will never contact you and ask for your information or money or anything like that. So if someone does, it's a scam. Don't go for it. But the first winner for our 100 subscriber giveaway will get a Ravelry pattern of their choice up to $10. If you don't use Ravelry, we'll find a different way to get a pattern to you. But Donna is recovering from surgery and just wasn't up to making a bag yet. So we're going to save that one for the next one. But I did want to go ahead and do a giveaway. So we'll do a Ravelry pattern. And here's how you enter. There are two things you need to do in order to enter for a free pattern. The first thing is to subscribe and then to give a like to this video. And then you're going to make a comment below with which pattern you want, and I won't hold you to it. You're welcome to change your mind. So don't feel like you have to research and pick out your pattern right now. But if you have one in mind, throw it in there and use the word frog in your answer. So when I go through and do the pattern generator next time, I'll look for the word frog and the pattern that you identify in your answer. So comment below with which pattern you would like if you're selected, subscribe to the channel, and include the word frog somewhere in your message. You can be funny, you can be cute, you can just put the word frog, it doesn't matter, but that's how you enter. And I will do that in episode 6, not today's episode. I don't know what I was thinking. It won't go up there today. But next week, I'll announce the winner. So you have until midnight Friday. Let's see, that would be I think it's Friday the 14th. Anyway, midnight Friday, August 14th, 2026 is the cutoff. I will do the random selector on Saturday morning when I record the video, and then we'll announce our winner. So Thank you for sticking with me. I hope today's episode felt a little less frantic and the audio is working and it's not 5 a.m., so that's good. I really appreciate your hanging in there with me. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in episode 6.